right, we got people showing up and it's Friday, so we're happy. And
This is
oh gosh, Bob Danon. Um, oh, what last name do you use, Lacey? I guess I haven't asked.
Oh, last name is Lowe.
Okay, Lacey Lowe. Okay, and yeah, my wife. We did that too. I never even once thought of having her take my last name because we did immigration. Well, I mean, it was like all the immigration documents, and I was like stressing out. I'm like, no, we're not going to credit all your documents again. And here we are all these years later, and I'm just like, yeah. But I titled this can be the year of the progressives, but only if we make it. There's a lot of stuff I want to run by you guys. You guys are part of the digital think tank. I
Uh,
appreciate you. You're brilliant. And just this week, I've been interviewing all the courage candidates, and what I found is America is indoctrinated to just not pay attention to the primaries. That applies to the legacy media. It applies to the celebrity creators who have come to Substack, and we need to change that, and
yeah.
we need to change a lot of things. So that's kind of the topic. But let's talk about whatever you guys want to talk about too. So good to see you.
Good to see you, Walter. And yeah, I think that's definitely what we want to talk about. I think I've been on your show now a number of times, along with other shows. Will and Nick and others. But today, I think what we like to do is kind of look at the future,
Yeah.
and so what kind of things do we need to do, kind of in order for us to actually have a future vision that can be articulated and shared and embraced,
Yeah.
and then what do we do to try to go from here to there?
Yeah,
Um,
something to fight the Heritage Foundation. They've got the Heritage Foundation, and we've got nothing. We need like
we got nothing.
The humanitarian foundation,
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly right.
progressive
So,
things.
so one of the things that we've been doing, Lacey and I, over the last probably now a year or so, maybe a little bit longer, are kind of looking at that future in a number of different ways. And I'll kind of lay it out, but I want Lacey to introduce herself too, because she has a fabulous background. But I'll just kind of lay out a little bit first. So one of the things that she and I did the last year, one of our colleagues who's been a colleague for, oh God, 30 plus years, wound up writing an article about agentic AI. Okay, so we hear lots and lots of stuff about AI and agents going to take over jobs and that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that he wrote about in forward thinking is to say, well, how do we in fact start to create digital twins of individuals? Okay, that actually kind of sync their minds and sync their souls. Actually, how do we get humanity into AI?
Oh, I see.
Uh,
Okay, I already see where you're
uh,
going. Yeah.
and so, and then what we have found, and both of us have created our own digital twins now, professionally. And now we actually collaborate with ourselves. So the digital twins have access to the kind of the world of the internet and all knowledge. We can talk a little about
Yeah.
what that whole process was like, and then what it's like now to have a digital twin to collaborate with. And then that digital twin is not just going out and representing us. It actually is someone, as we're starting to look at the knowledge worker of the future, the knowledge worker of the future. And one of our friends says, well, it's really a wisdom worker of the future. And we say, no, actually, Mike, it's kind of probably a knowledge worker of the future. The knowledge worker, however, is probably not just a human being. It's a human being paired with their digital twin. So now they're collaborating and creating something that's going to be even more human and more capable of thinking well beyond what our capabilities to think are right now. I'll leave that for a second. Okay. The other thing that we've done is that we've been working with a person who does creative quests, global creative quests. So they start to think, way out of the box. And so I'll let Lacey talk about some of the things we've been doing with this group. Okay, we just completed a quest just a few weeks ago. It is all future focused, one of the speakers was incredible. And then one of the things that we've been doing over the last few weeks was to actually say, well, let's start to envision now 2040, 15 years from now.
Wow.
So I'm 75. So I think I'm still kicking at 90. Well, when I get to 90, what would I like the world to look like?
Whew.
And so number one, I asked Bob, I asked my digital twin to collaborate with me. And Bob has some pretty damn good ideas. And so we collaborated. And then,
But he didn't ask me. He
no,
didn't ask me.
I actually did.
Bob tends to agree more, right? He knows where real Bob's coming from, so yeah.
But then we kind of took the Progressive Caucus of the House of Representatives. I always talk about this, the Progressive Promise. We combine that with the secular humanists have the 10 commitments. I took that. I asked Claude then from Anthropic to help with kind of creating this. So now I actually have, which I'm going to start kind of rolling out in Substack next week or the next week, a whole kind of envisioning of 2040 from a progressive secular humanist point of view. What does that look like? What can we and so start to open up some conversation that looks beyond the day-to-day chaos that we are faced with right now and say, hey, what can we in fact start to embrace and promote, et cetera. So those are the kind of things, we'd like to talk to you and have interface with the group around this. But I'm going to let Lacey, because again, her background is incredible, and I want her to introduce herself and then get in on the conversation, because this is the first time, you've met her before, but certainly your audience and followers are meeting her for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks, Bob. So Walter and audience, I'm just a person that is totally into purpose for life. I have a lot of passion for fairness, for inclusivity, and making sure that everyone is treated, equally. That comes with all the bullshit of corporate work for the last 40 or 45 years. I've got the degrees and all of that. And that has not been the fun part,
Right.
right? That's not been the fun part of my life. I did do a significant amount of work in, leadership and helping leaders understand why DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion is so important, particularly in the face of this administration that's, basically obliterated it. And really all the data and research says that, if you can stand your ground and stay committed to it, that, you're going to get better results, whether that's as a person or as a team or, as an organization, as an academic institution, but of course that takes a lot of fortitude, right? It takes a lot of courage and boldness, to be able to stand up, particularly if you're kind of working in a place where it's the traditional corporate life, and that's not really subscribed to. On top of that, I think that, the ability, which is why we got involved with this quest thing that we'll share with you, but the ability, we always talk about let's look at the positive side. Let's, be empathetic. Let's help people be positive. That I think that thinking is so challenged to do well because there's a lot of systemic factors that are going counter to an individual's ability to be able to think out of the box or think creatively, right? You're forever getting stamped down by all the negativity, right? And so it's very challenging to stand up and say, I'm going to think differently about this and think positively about it, right? And we could talk about what I see, as and it's research too, whether it's workforce, in workplace studies or just societal information and studies about why that's the case. And we could talk about some of those reasons, but you know, that's kind of who I am. I mean, I don't necessarily want to go into all the boring, sort of credentials of where I've worked and what my academic credentials are. Just suffice it to say, been there, done that shit.
Yeah.
And Yeah. And now I have the, sort of the luxury to say, where do I want to affiliate to really make a difference in this world, that will help others be, perceived in a fair, positive, inclusive way. And
Yes.
so, conversations with you, discussions with Will Fullwood. I
Oh,
absolutely
yes.
love that guy. I love
Uh,
him. Yeah. And,
uh,
a bunch of others. One person you guys affiliate with, I can't remember her name, Zuri Stevens, I think.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
Yes, she's absolutely amazing too. I love her. So,
Natasha
yeah,
just came in the
anyways.
chat. Natasha came in the chat. She's great too.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah. Hi,
wonderful thing you
Natasha.
could just
Yeah.
compassionate, wonderful people. Yes. I
Yeah.
continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's all. That's all. That's why I'm here, because I just kind of, wedged my way in and said, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?"
Oh, I'm so happy you're here. I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you saw, because with Will, I interviewed Sherry Dunn
Uh-huh.
this week. I don't know
yes,
if you saw that interview. And I just remembered she's this is called Qualified. It's about the systemic racism black people face in the workplace. And I remembered you'd done something with Forbes, and I was just like, I just love bringing like these brilliant people together, help elevating these messages. I had the opportunity. It was my privilege to talk to Sherry for an hour this week, and she blew me away. And it's just like anything we can do to help. I don't know. I want to put it in your minds. Elevate Sherry too. I mean, just that would be fantastic. If I can have you connect with Sherry somehow and do
yeah, no
Yeah.
something with
doubt,
her.
yes.
Oh, I think you'd love working with her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
she's great.
Lacey still kind of writes for Harvard and Forbes, and she's out there always trying
Yeah.
to do right.
Even
So
a book
yes,
review of this in Forbes would be good. And then, of course, I wanted to just because I always have this by my table, My Curious
Oh my
Life.
God. I live to eat and breathe that thing.
Yeah, just carry it next to my heart, so I can absorb the
that's
decency,
what I
man.
want to.
Oh, but let me just pivot again because I love what you're saying. This bigger scope, right? And it is nice to just we do have to fortify ourselves and have a plan because we've been coerced into this just kind of reaction. All we do is react to what the right does, and we never take the ball, we never get to go on offense. But I'm seeing, and this last week, I've had the opportunity to talk with this brilliant woman who is organizing the Courage candidates. I think I'm going to have to sit you down for an interview with her, the two of
Yeah,
you, and I think you'll find she's brilliant. She's actually the one who wrote the impeachment legislation that was irritating the Democrats, because they're just like, we have to be united, and just like,
yeah,
be united. This is what everybody wants.
yeah,
She was the one. She's like, it's easy to write these things. She's like, I'm ready to impeach Supreme Court. It's just a matter of having a couple representatives who are willing to push this through. So what I've been thinking about, though, is we've been indoctrinated to not pay attention to the primaries. The media just doesn't cover primaries. And so I'm taking it upon myself to just interview every candidate. But I mean, there's how many seats are there? 435 representatives, and then there's 10 people sometimes running for each seat. So I'm appealing to more creators, and it doesn't just have to be on Substack. We have to break this mold where we disregard the primaries. The guy I was talking to yesterday, Abel Chavez, he says what you see is the same donors, they anoint a candidate among the Democrats and a candidate among the Republicans. And because we disregard the primaries, we only like, oh, we have a choice, but it's an illusion of choice by the time we get to the general. The only place you really have a choice is in the primaries, America. And the
yes,
whole legacy media disregards it. And so I want to appeal to you guys' brilliance because I'm worn out. And if you can use your bot versions of yourself to do it too, I need this help. Everybody, I need this help. I'm at the limit of what I can do. And I can't, I just physically can't interview all 400 candidates running. I can't. I would love to. I just don't have the energy to do it. So we need everybody with any kind of platform, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you go, spreading these interviews. I've shared a couple of clips from the guys I did. They were both wonderful. The two guys. And here's the thing that's amazing is when you interview these real people representatives who aren't bought corporate entities. The one guy, Abel, yesterday, he was holding his baby for a while. And it was just like, oh, my baby came into the room because he's just like a real person facing the real stresses of life. And we have to shake off this idea that that's not what a politician looks like, because we kind of default to that. We're just like, well, I'm expecting this clean cut millionaire who's never had to change the oil of his car. And for some reason, we're like, well, that's the guy I should vote for. Why am I doing this? It's like against my will. I'm voting for this person. And that's what we have to shake off and elect, people that actually have had work and You'll like them. I'm going to introduce you to some of those guys as we go too, just so I have more voices in there. But what are your thoughts on that big
Right?
old
Yeah.
spiel?
Well, that's great. Plus, I think the other thing, and we talked about, Walter, one thing that we talked about kind of a number of times is that there is actually a platform that's articulated by the Progressive Caucus in the House of
Yeah.
Representatives,
Mhm.
the Progressive Promise, and it's four major items and a number of sub bullets in it.
Yes.
It's a whole kind of two sides of a Word document. But we need to challenge all of the folks running for Democratic office. With that, and ask them, number one, do they embrace this? If they say yes, let them articulate it. And then number two, if they don't, and they say, well, no, we have to be centrist, So, okay, so which ones of these things do you disagree with?
Yeah.
And so, it's pretty clear cut that all of these, in fact, are going to be beneficial for the vast majority of the population. And so, the real question is, here it is. And then the candidates need to embrace that, because then each one of them may say, well, I got my own platform. Well, kind of ultimately, we have to unite, but we have to unite against a platform, a vision, something that can be legislated, okay, and brought into laws, and then actually beneficial for everyone.
Yep, I had a request for that document, Polly. So when we get done today, make a note and send me that document, that two-page document you talked about.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
you can Google it. If anybody wants to Google it, you
Oh,
just
great.
Google House of Representatives, Progressive Caucus, Progressive Promise.
Yeah.
Boom,
Okay.
there it is. And then actually look at the members of the Progressive Caucus that embrace that. There's about 100 of them right now. We need whatever 200 and what is it,
Yeah.
218 or
Yeah, yeah, 218 is the number.
219 or 240
Yeah.
of the House of Representatives embracing that. If we do, the world changes.
Yeah.
And,
Lacey?
Walter, when you just, something struck me. I'm just a simple kind of person. It's like, when you talked about the guy coming in with the baby, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, people like to align with people that are real. Like, be human. Don't
Yes.
be this fake, asshole, behind some dramatic, shield, right? Like I will follow people that are going to open their hearts to me, that are going to be real, that I feel like I can,
Yeah.
wear my heart on my sleeve with. And that we need those kind of people, right? Like I
Yes.
don't need the fake people in the $3,000 suits and the,
Yep.
driving the Maserati, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, so I
With
would
taxpayer
love that.
money, but with
Yeah.
taxpayer money,
Yeah.
So, and I what's been really interesting though, and I've been doing this now for a couple months, interviewing these candidates, and what's emerging is there are so many progressive candidates who have received calls from prominent Democrats who have said, you're a great person, you're a great candidate, but we don't want a primary. We don't want you to run. We want you to stop. We have our candidate, and it's like we have the person who's a good fundraiser. And the response is he's a good fundraiser because he wrote himself a check because he's worth
Yeah.
like $30 million. These aren't grassroots donations. But I think everybody really needs to understand. I've been talking with Natasha. We've got this concept of blue MAGA. That's who we're up against. Dr. Martin Luther King talked about how the moderate is the biggest obstacle to equality, because
That's
they are the puppeteers. And we've got these fascists, we've been seeing them, but they're just sacrificed. You have these willing pawns. We're seeing that in this administration. They appoint somebody who's unqualified for a position, and then when everything goes bad, that person is sacrificed. And it doesn't cost them anything because those aren't people who have spent years and years developing themselves with any skills. They're just an endless sequence, pawn after pawn after pawn. And it's just frustrating though, because our puppeteers on the blue establishment that prevents progressives, they prevent grassroots candidates. You saw how they responded to Mamdani, and Mamdani broke through that. But we need another 200 Mamdanis, and it's
yes.
going to take these collective efforts. And I keep saying, like, Substack is this place. You got all these people. What's upsetting me is we're seeing these celebrity journalists who come to Substack. They steal my oxygen, but then they bring the old school kind of attitude. None of them are interviewing candidates because they're all thinking about, open rates and stuff. And I'm just like, look, we have to promote the people. It's like, we want change. We got to do things differently. So I think people just need to orient themselves and recognize we have to vote out the majority of the people. I mean, yes, Bob says there is a progressive caucus, and those guys are working for us. But there are a lot of candidates who are in the groups that vote with Republicans. Cuellar voted with Republicans for the SAVE Act, for example.
Yes.
We've had guys like Manchin. We've got Fetterman. The stuff he cast a deciding vote for that Mark Wayne Mullen, who shouldn't be in the position he's at. So we just have to recognize these things are possible, and I just need help. I need help to elevate these candidates.
And I'll tell you, Walter, one of the things, and I've mentioned this a number of times, but I'll mention it again, because there's a number of political action committees out there that are good. Okay. And one that everybody kind of on the line should follow is Leaders We Deserve.
Yeah.
So if you go again in Substack, do a quick search, Leaders We Deserve, David Hogue founded that. And I've been a day one supporter. I have monthly contributions to Leaders We Deserve. And if you find David Hogue and you find Leaders We Deserve, follow it. If you can contribute, great. But he is the one who's actually out there looking for young progressives. So did he support Mondani? Absolutely. I mean, and I did too. The first real success was Maxwell Frost from Orlando. If you know him, he's a congressman from Orlando, young, progressive, and he was supported by Leaders We Deserve, and then Leaders We Deserve, I support them, but then I was making contributions directly to Maxwell Frost. But that's how we kind of build this up. We look for some other organizations to extend our own reach. Okay, because they are making those investments. And then I'm also looking for more representation of scientists and medical professionals. Okay, I don't want any more freaking lawyers. Okay, or professional politicians. Let's get some people who actually understand facts and reason and truth and research and the like. And so 314 Action. Again, go ahead and search 314 Action on Substack. Follow them, and then you'll see kind of they are speaking up, okay, for reason and science, and want medical professionals, doctors and nurses, et cetera, to be our representatives in Congress and at all levels in government. So there's a number of those. I'm a veteran, so I support Vote Vets. Again, they want veterans who are progressives to be elected to office, so that we don't get all of this bullshit of supporting a $1 trillion budget for next year for the military and do all these military misadventures around the world that are causing nothing but pain, and then take all the money out of all social programs to do that. Insane. Okay. So, well, like I said, there's a number of PACs, and if you follow me, then you're going to see me kind of repost and comment on all of those. But there's a lot of them that are grassroots, that are individually supported. They're not taking all of these big other monies from the billionaires or other special interests, and they're doing the good work for us in terms of getting women, getting people of color, getting
educated people, qualified people,
and vets and young people. Okay, all
people who've had to work a little bit in their lives too, like people who've had a minimum wage job. Lacey, do you have something?
In addition to the committees and whatnot that Bob just mentioned, I think this notion, we mentioned this thing called Creative Quest early on. We met this guy through this quest. We'll talk about it in a minute, but his name is Rob Hopkins, and he's out of England. And his whole premise is you can use imaginative sort of what if thinking to foster positive change in critical crisis areas that we're in right now, like education or climate change or politics. And it's his whole platform. He wrote this book. It's called two of them, How to Fall in Love with the Future and From What Is to What If. So it's really super cool. The basic sort of tenets of the whole thing is we've had among all people, we've had sort of a decline of imaginative thinking, right? And he explores the whys
Yeah.
behind that. It's like, stress and pressure. It's, the conformity that people subscribe to as
Yeah.
opposed to being bold and brassy, right? He talks about that, yes, having what if or imaginative thinking is a catalyst for change. Like
Yeah.
you're able to envision things that you would never envision that could be the future if you don't challenge yourself. Concrete examples, like if you say, I really wish that, we had more communities that were more, sustainable. So what are you going to do? So he gives an example of, well, hey, I ride a bike, and every time I'm riding a bike, I have to pass like light poles, right? I come to stop at a red light, whatever. I'm going to put up posters on these light poles. Every
Yeah.
single light pole that I pass that says, join this community meeting, right? Like basic stuff
Yeah.
that you can start to rally people around, right? He talks about, like real world examples like that in these two books. And we engaged in this quest. It was like a uh 4 or 5 week session that we got
Yeah.
together with a group of about, I don't know what it was, like
A hundred
300,
plus, yeah.
100 plus people from all over the globe, a lot from like England,
Yeah.
fewer from America with their, sort of, holier than thou, entitled attitudes, where the ones from England were much more, open and willing and inclusive and whatnot. And anyways, we spent 4 weeks together breaking out into these groups, exploring these questions from Ra, right?
Yeah.
What if we could imagine a future, what would it look like? Like, we created one where, animals were equal, right? So I'm all about, inclusivity and fairness and equalness. Well, I'm vegetarian because I don't want to kill animals to
Mm-hmm.
eat my food,
Yeah.
right? Because animals are as important as I am. So,
Yes.
anyways, it was pretty cool, this quest. The guy that started it, he's in England, or
Yeah, he's in England.
yeah, his name is Sam Furness. We can
Oh,
we
that
can
sounds
put
great.
his info in the chat, but it's just we left this session, Walter, like, holy shit, we can
Yeah.
make this happen. We can have a better world, right?
Yes.
We affiliated with a couple hundred people that were
Yes.
positive for 4 weeks
Yes.
long. Soon as the quest ended, it's back to the same old,
Yeah. And that's fascinating. And it's been a reoccurring thing. And it's like in this last 2 years, this wouldn't have existed. I didn't do this. So it's been so wonderful. And I keep saying the silver lining of the horrible, in a weird way, I feel like the work I do now is more important than anything I've ever done. I'm so appreciative of being able to meet people like you. I love you guys. And it's just like, it's weird because it's like none of this would have happened. I would have never met you,
Yeah.
if we'd have had Harris in. I think she did win, is what I keep saying, but that's beside the point. But that like developing community keeps being the theme we come around. We don't even really know what that means. And we all want to be active. So many people write me, what can I do? When I talked to the citizens impeachment, Kira is her name. She was just like, those letters to the editor mean a lot. Restacking these clips like from these wonderful candidates, that means a lot. And we were talking about creative things like have a party where you get together and make your protest signs, like arts
Yeah.
and crafts. We're making protest signs. You feel so much better. But one of the things I want to do is create this Substack trend. It's a trend, community trend, where we're interviewing these progressive candidates. The ones that, I keep publishing the contact information on the ones I'm talking to so other people can go and find them. Because we have to change it because the establishment Democrats don't want primaries, and I keep saying that people just don't really understand. They keep talking about the midterms. They want us to disregard like this level of conditioning that we've all been subjected to
Right.
is astonishing when you start seeing it and the effort it takes to overcome it. If we could crack that, if we could and it's like, yeah, I've tried to reach out to leaders we deserve it, but they're already doing this. I'm trying to get into people like Jim Acosta, and I put a bunch of names down. Heather Cox Richardson, Dan Rather, Robert Reich, all these people on Substack who have 100,000 followers. If they would just once a week interview a progressive candidate, and I
Yes.
want to tell that, like, all the way that people have the power is If they don't do that, do not subscribe to them. Send them messages, pressure them. Say, you either have to do this one, and don't subscribe to anybody. Don't become a supporter of anybody with a big platform who is doing the status quo, who is disregarding the primaries in favor of the predetermined general, where we have to choose between two bought and paid for candidates. So other ways that you guys can think of this, I mean, I just know that you guys have ways of influencing and just getting people out there. Any ways we can draw attention. I mean, you don't have to watch the entirety of the interviews I put out, but just if you watch for like 2 or 3 minutes, you get a sense of a person. And I think that's what I bring to this fight, is I'm able to engage with people in a way that brings out their true nature pretty quickly, so we can just get, and everybody I've talked to, I'm like, these are actual people that I would be friends with them. And that's what I don't have. There's few people serving today among our representatives who are like that. So what are your thoughts?
I totally agree, Walter. I think the other thing that we have to do is make sure that we know what the right questions are to ask them.
Yeah.
Okay. And you and I have now I've been on your show a couple of times just talking about the fact that
Yeah.
we need a STEM point of view in a lot of these conversations to challenge the lies, the misinformation, disinformation, the propaganda that comes to us like continually.
Yeah.
And so,
Their
bring the
rhetoric.
right questions, because I can almost guarantee that no matter where you are in mainstream media, liberal or not, okay,
Yeah.
you're going to get a stream of again, lies and misinformation and
Yep.
propaganda that has to be challenged.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so the more that we can encourage not only the progressive candidates, but also to get as many folks that actually kind of understand from a
Yeah.
scientific standpoint, okay, what the situation is, and challenge the dogma that we are being fed, I think
Yeah.
is incredibly important, because you never see that ever, okay, on any mainstream media, okay,
Yeah.
and even in Substack and other alternate
Yeah.
media. Okay, you're the one of the only ones that invited me to come in and talk about things that sound
They
technical.
control the
Okay,
narrative. It's 1984. We're living in this. We're not allowed to engage in certain ideas. It's the reality. So yeah, it drives me nuts too. So I'm so happy to be able to talk to you. And I'm constantly astounded all these brilliant people that are willing to talk to me. But it's like it's because nobody else will talk to them. And it's like,
exactly.
going,
And we're yelling at
well,
at the TVs. So and
there
I've
are
been
lots
doing
of
that for
Mikey.
years.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so the like I said, the other thing that I think is going to be important is that that we really have something that's not anti. Okay, right now we are the opposition.
Yes.
Okay, we're anti this, we're anti that. We're we have to take the high. I thought the
Yes.
high road. Okay, we have to take the high ground and say, look. No, we're not trying to fight our way up to the hill where you have the high ground on morality, on
Yes.
teaching, on power. Okay,
Yeah.
we have all the people. Okay,
Yeah.
and in fact, we have the moral high ground
Yes.
as progressives.
We don't have to
And
play it by the rules they define. We can define a new set of
yes.
rules. Yes. Lacey?
So and we
Oh,
have to in every single case, and that's what I'm doing now with Lacey, and Robo Lacey and Bot Bob and Claude. Okay, what we're doing is trying to actually kind of formulate it. I asked Claude the other day, well, what's the best way? Well, he said, you gotta start writing op-eds. Okay, and get them
yes.
out there.
Helps.
And so, then, obviously, the answer to Claude is, okay, can you take what we've just talked about and write an op-ed?
Yeah.
Like 1 second later,
Can
there's an op-ed that's written in our voice, based on all the conversations that we were having on all these different progressive and secular humanist, kind of thinking.
yeah.
There it is.
Well, they
And so,
flood it with their hate stuff. They use their can you make it so it sends it to every like publication in the entire world? Can it like automatically send out?
I'm not that clever. If somebody
Okay.
is online that's that clever, okay, I'm willing to do the content, or we're willing to do the content. And yeah, she's a way better speaker and writer than I am.
Oh, no.
And so,
Well, send the links. Send the links to these. See, send the links to these interviews I'm doing with progressive candidates. If like another 10,000 people could see them, so people just know what's possible. We can
Yeah.
get this trend growing. But go ahead,
Yeah,
Lacey.
well, we have just a little
Oh.
footprint on. You see, we've been kind of in the professional area now for our entire career. So LinkedIn and other things like that is where we've spent most of our lives. We've only really been on Substack,
Yeah.
me for about a year and a half.
Yeah,
And
me too.
she's
Yeah.
only gotten involved over a very, very short period of time. So we have really no presence in Substack other than a tiny one. And if anybody's on the line who subscribes to me, my subscription is free. So feel free, both of us, Lacey and myself, to subscribe. It doesn't cost you a penny, and whatever little bits of wisdom we might share, we're happy to do it. But anyway, so we're only kind of getting our toes dipped in this right now, but we are both retired. Okay, so that's the positive. We're old, so we're able to.
Speak for yourself.
Okay,
Yeah.
he always wants a we. Okay, so now it's a plural.
Oh,
Uh, Walter, I wonder when you do all that work. I mean, it just strikes me like how do we draw attention to a progressive candidate? Is the question I heard you ask, and
yeah.
so then
Yeah.
my mind starts spinning. Yeah,
Good.
how can we? Yeah, how can
My
we
work
do
is
that?
done.
Yeah. So, you do all the work to interview them. And I wonder sometimes, and then you write articles as well. So sometimes, I find for myself and what others, that I see others kind of absorb is when there's a story behind something, when it's storytelling, right? So if you can draw a story, because people can remember stories, they can't
Yeah.
remember facts and drama and data and
Yeah.
all that, right? They can remember stories. So if we could draw stories out of these candidates that you're speaking to, and not a ton, right? Like you
Yeah.
might speak to them for an hour or whatever, they show up for half an hour, whatever. If we could find one story around the critical
Yeah.
education, inclusion, diversity, climate change, the politics, whatever that, and short stories that you could profile, right?
Yeah.
And then because I think then people can affiliate, they can spread that. It's
Yeah.
easier to spread stories than, an
Yep.
hour. Yeah. So and you're already doing the work. You might even be able to get Claude or somebody capture a story, right? And generate it for you. You'd have to edit it or somebody edit it, right? We'd be happy to look at it, but that might be a way to help, showcase and draw attention to the
Yeah.
messages they're sharing.
I think you're saying a good thing. The clips and Substack has some good tools where you can get the clips, the shorter clips, or the really important comments. But the
Yeah.
real issue I'm facing is the distribution suppression. Like,
Yeah.
and it's because I'm a progressive voice. So it's like oligarch publishing. At this point, I'm 51. I've spent my whole life like I'm actually a pretty good writer. Occasionally, I write something that just slips through the cracks and millions of people see it. But then it's like, how come nobody ever wants to like hire me to write? I mean, it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense, does it? It's like, why is that? It's because they deliberately don't want, like, oligarch publishing does not want a person like me who will present ideas that will, tumble their power structure. So I need
Yeah.
help with distribution because I know the content is already there. Yeah, it's like I can do these stories. This is engaging stuff. And it happened on Substack too. I was, I was elevating. I was a rising star, and then they're like, somebody actually looked at it. They're like, wait a minute, put the brakes on this guy because this guy is going to change the world for the better. So we can't have that. So, anyways, because I know that what the right does, I know this because of what I see on my articles. They have some sort of a mechanism that spams my content with these bot comments, and they try to redirect everything I say to this hate content. So we need a counter to that. And if you can do it with AI, that'd be great. If we can take AI clips from some of these brilliant candidates I've been talking
Yeah.
about and spread those somehow so that it's seen by 1 million people rather than just the 10,000 or so that I can get it to, that's what we need. And pressuring other creators because you're on the fringe. And I've already seen this in my lifetime. The stuff I wrote about 5 years ago is widely talked about now. And it's like,
Yeah.
great. It was totally disregarded then, but I push the Overton window. This is
Yeah.
my job on this earth. I am the one pushing the Overton window to the left. And it's like, it's kind of frustrating because it's sort of like you're wading through this stuff and all these, but then like the celebrity journalists come along like, here's my idea. And it's my idea ripped off and diluted, which they ignored 5 years ago. And then everybody's like, yay, here's a $10 monthly subscription to you. And then that guy doesn't push the Overton window anymore. So we just need that. We need to shift it all so we actually get visibility. Yeah, it's the distribution suppression. How do we overcome that? How do we get more visibility? And we need other people. It's not just me becoming the most known voice in the universe. We need 100,000 creators who are also doing the same work. So it's like, that's the narrative. That's the reality of our times. And that's not just the hope for the future.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, Walter, is the fact that we need to find some of those grassroots organizations, and there's plenty of them out there that have a strong focus on the progressive message, plus some other
Yeah.
attribute. Okay,
Yeah.
scientists, women, young people, whatever. I think we have to find them, and then we have to kind of coalesce around them. So when you're putting out, and I think on the one his name popped out of my mind here. You had a candidate in California, Northern
Oh,
California.
Chris Bennett. Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris Bennett.
yes,
He looked like
yes.
Clark Kent. He was the one who
It
looked
was
like Clark
great.
Kent.
It was great. And
It
in
was
fact,
awesome.
I had lived in the area, and I was telling Lacey that the shopping center behind him. I shopped there a million times when I lived in the Sacramento area, and so but the whole key is, that we have to kind of coalesce around, some messaging. And then,
Yeah.
like I did in the chat, I said, have you reached out to, leaders we deserve? Okay. So there's all of those kind of connections. So I think having a list of, I don't know, there's probably 8, 10, 12, 15, okay,
Yeah.
good, solid grassroots PACs that are not funded by all of the
Yeah.
money, okay, that we have to also kind of coalesce around and help and then reference and share and restack, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking to those candidates, we have to start to make those kind of connections to see if, in fact, we're talking to a vet. Okay, hey, have you talked to vote vets? Okay, and they're small, but I think if we start channeling our support and money, and then make sure that we elevate them with those candidates and get everybody kind of talking the same language, we have a fighting chance of
Yeah.
actually moving this forward. And there's proof out there. Mondavi is perfect evidence that it wasn't only the grassroots kind of knocking on doors, but David Hogan and then Leaders We
Yes.
Deserve channeled a bunch of money to him,
Yeah.
and it's so positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I thought of is, as you guys were chatting and I'm reflecting on it, is,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems pretty basic, but I'm just going to say
Mhm.
it out loud, right? Like, I've got some friends. I think they're friends. I'm not sure. Maybe not anymore. That are on the Republican side, and whenever a progressive candidate speaks, their response is
Yeah.
always such that they perceive the progressive message as being radical or
Yeah.
totally different, or right. And so I think our job to draw attention to the progressive candidates messaging is, how do we align their message with
Yeah.
basic values that, I don't care who you are, what you look like, or what you stand for. It's hard to argue with. Do you want opportunity? Do you want fairness?
Yeah.
Do you want inclusion? Do you want to be future ready? Right? So if we can align their messaging with basic values to every single human being in the world,
Yeah.
regardless of political affiliation, I think that would help too, because then again, coming back, people start to see that as a real human being, somebody authentic.
Yes, and that's really an important point, but I wanna emphasize that there are a lot of Democrats who contribute to exactly what you just said, and this is why we have to push back, and all the people I'm saying, I wrote down, "The public must demand these interviews with progressives because it normalizes." I mean, if people like
Yeah.
these well-known celebrities start talking to these progressives, we can normalize that message, and we're up against the hard, we're progressives are playing. I mean, the conservative, the right, they're playing with like a 100-point lead. So they can afford to just be cautious. They can just deflect. They
Yeah.
can resort to this establishment. And I mean, we have to fight back against when Democrats say things like America's not ready for a black woman. We have to say that's racist. You have to apologize or get the hell out of the party. We can't allow our Democrats to say things like that. But too often among the general public, I'll say something like that and they'll be like, Walter, you're being divisive. Our big enemy is the fascists. And that's where the battle is. The battle is, like you've been saying it, Bob, unifying against our real opponent here. But our real opponent is pushing out blue MAGA, like the Republicans within our party, bringing in the progressives. And it's going to take just the understanding among the people. I interviewed that wonderful candidate, Francesca Hong. She just blew me away. She was running for governor in Wisconsin. I was just like, this is delightful. And then I'm seeing the Republican response to her, and they're saying things like, the Democrats are running candidates who are frivolous or candidates who are not serious, And that's what we're up against, everybody. Everybody here in the chat. We have to demand that the progressive message is taken seriously, and that's only going to happen when we start seeing a Substack trend of all the big creators interviewing progressive candidates, normalizing it, people with bigger platforms than I have, bring them on, and we have to talk about it incessantly to the point where we drown out all the hate rhetoric of the right. And that rhetoric aspect of this is really challenging, and overcoming the brainwashing is really challenging. And all the messages that people just absorb and they don't push back against, like the electability argument. Electability is a racist thing to say. That's a bigoted thing to say. Democrats can't say that anymore. And like Lacey said, we have to turn it back to these real issues. But that mechanism of rhetoric that deflects us from the truth it's complex, and it's going to take a lot to tear it down.
Well, and Walter, I mean, the key is that we are dead serious. Okay.
Yes.
And actually have been dead serious for the last 60 years. Okay. If it wasn't for the progressives, none of the progress that's been made over the last 60 years would have been there. Okay.
Yeah.
Think about the obviously we've backslid now for the last 10 years since Trump is kind of taking control of this. Even when Biden was in, all of the messaging was dominated by Trump. Okay, no matter what went on. But if you look at the 50 years prior to Trump coming to the scene, I mean, all of that progress. If you think about where we would be, women, blacks, all of the minorities, immigrants, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, you think about all of them and everybody else. Okay, where we would have been. Okay, if in fact the progressives didn't stand up over and over and over again and speak up for the population. Think about where we were in the 60s. Okay.
Yeah.
All of that progress was not done by the freaking Republicans. Okay. We're not done by the freaking, centrist Democrats. Okay. It was all the progressives. They're kind of pushing and pushing and pushing, and little at a time, chip away. Like I said, we backslid now for the last 10 years, but we know that we can do it because we have done it. Okay. There isn't like, oh, well, maybe we should try. We tried. Okay. And succeeded. Okay. I just had a conversation. One of our friends is a Republican, and he and I went into it, for hours. But at the end, it was like, you could see the light bulbs going off in his Republican head because, actually,
light started coming out of his mouth. Yeah.
The red light started fading to blue.
Oh, it was great. Let me take. We're coming up on time, but I'll take 2 minutes because he read my book, and actually kind of liked it. That book, that very one. So Walter, what does he hand me? He hands me John Kennedy's, from Louisiana. He just released the book. Okay. So he says, Hey Bob, I'd really like you to read, John Kennedy's book. Obviously, I hate it already, right? Because it's John Kennedy from Louisiana. Okay, but it's like, okay, fine. Lee, I'll take a read of that, and then we can talk about it after. Because he goes to Lacey. Well, here's I gave this book to Bob, and there's going to be a quiz at the end. It's like, okay, I'm more than happy to take that quiz. And so I read the book, and the guy is a freaking racist and a bigot, and privileged white guy who doesn't get it, and
Yeah.
his ancestors kind of owned other people, right?
Yeah.
They were slave owners and landowners in Louisiana, and all the bad things that you can imagine. So I was prepared.
Yeah.
So we had quite a conversation about that book. But I think we have to just kind of stand up and call them out. Okay, that's the
Yes.
other thing is
Yeah.
sometimes we're too timid. Oh yeah, I can kind of understand. Maybe we should meet in the middle. No, fuck that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to meet in the middle with a
Yeah.
racist. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge them. And the Republicans who say, "Well, but I'm not a racist." Well, if you agree with this, okay,
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
racist. So uh,
Absolutely. Lacey, some thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, again, I'm thinking back I'm always 10 steps behind Bob. But when you said, how to drown out the hate rhetoric, right? But for me, it's what he said. It's not about trying to silence the dissent, right? Or tell them they're wrong. It's
Yeah.
it's always for me about coming back to the basic core values that we all want as human beings, right? The ones I've said a million times already on our discussion here. And exploring, in a fashion, how is what that candidate is saying, is
Yeah.
that aligning with these values? So that what he just said, when the light bulb goes off
Yeah.
sometimes, right? So, like, you let a person self-discover without trying to tell them this guy's fucked up,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and white privilege again. Let them discover why, aligning with what we all want as human beings and exploring whether is that
Yeah.
messaging that guy says or that girl says, is that there or not, right? So I
Yeah.
think for me, that's always what it comes back to. I mean, I'm the first one that I get so passionate about dramatic, entitled, privileged people who
Yeah.
don't work hard. I would like to silence them all and, dig my spiked high heel into their face. But,
Nice.
I obviously that won't work. So yeah, I try to figure out how to, kind of cast their actions or their messaging without trying to silence them, but to say, does this align with what we want as human beings, right?
Yeah.
Can we live with this on a day in, day out? Will that make us flourish as a person? Will that
Yeah.
make us happier? Will that engage us? Will that give us better well being? If not, well, maybe we should reconsider this, right?
Yes.
So that's how I always try to come at it. I'm always not successful because I like to do the first, but
Yeah.
um yeah.
Well, I think the thing I want to emphasize too is like everybody, and I get their frustration, and everybody's looking about the horrors and the atrocities going on today, and they want to make it stop. But we can't put the cart before the horse. We have to go after the we have to put pressure on the middle. That's where our fight is, because we can't, we're not making any progress because we have saboteurs, who refuse to let us even talk. And this cultural shift, we have to change our norms and we have to stop apologizing for being progressive,
Yeah.
like we're just like defiantly say that. And all this, and I keep saying, if you want to appeal to moderate Republicans, run as a Republican. I want
yeah,
people that appeal to the progressives. And that's what we have to have. And it's going to take the individual shift. Put your shift. The fight is not, and I get the people are desperate. They're like, Walter, we have to handle this fascism first. And it's like, no, we have to clean our own house first. We have
Yeah.
to find our unity first. And that is pressuring these creators to interview these progressive candidates because the establishment, Blue MAGA, they're putting the finger on the scales of these primaries. My friend Emily Berge's running here. High profile Democrats have called her and told her not to run. And they want to anoint who represents that district. And then when the candidate they anoint fails, they blame the voters. And they do this again and again and again. And they're afraid. I mean, the establishment, the Blue MAGA, it's easy for them right now. They don't want the people to choose, And we have to just shake that off. We have to not listen to them. We have to demand that the people choose who represents them in these districts. And it starts by just putting pressure everywhere to talk to candidates and to be more. I keep saying when people are like, you need to appeal to people that don't agree with you. I always say, model that for me because I don't agree with you. So you model
Yeah.
what it looks like, and they refuse. Then they get all mad and say, "See, you're asking
Yeah.
me to do something you refuse to do." So let's
Right.
knock that off. But yeah, people, just everybody in the chat, remember the fight is to pressure to find our unity because we're not an opposition party yet. We're fragmented, and it's
Yes.
because there are groups within our party that are deliberately working to keep us fragmented. They're anointing these big money candidates because they don't want to lose power. And we have to lift up the grassroots candidates. And the fact is, we've seen it. These progressive grassroots candidates who don't have a fraction of the money can win because the people are fed up with it. But we can do more. If we're looking for our point of activism, that's where it is. Pressure the middle and just don't even worry about the extremists at this point.
Yeah.
And I think, Walter, I mean, did you have a comment?
Oh, yeah, I just had one quick comment. It made me think of, like when you say, Walter, we don't have to, beg for yes. And so, yeah,
Yes.
I'm to the point where, if somebody's like that and I just choose to not, I just don't have time, effort, or energy to engage with people like that. And then I completely cut them out of my life. And it's,
Yeah.
I told you once before, it's like the freaking garbage took itself out. Like what
Yeah.
great gift than that, right? Yeah. So that's how I like to think about it. Sorry, Bob.
No, perfect. I think the other thing, and I'll kind of continue to beat this drum, is I think we always have to also have a positive response. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I think so
so
too.
for example, all of this talk about, putting up the 10 Commandments in, all of the public buildings and
You're
schools
right.
and whatever. Okay. Instead of just saying, no, that's wrong, that's unconstitutional, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And I've done this now probably hundreds of times on Substack in terms of commenting, etc. What I say is, okay, well, there is an alternative. Okay. How about the Humanist 10 Commitments? So
Yeah.
again, if you just Google Humanist 10 Commitments, you read the 10 Commitments, altruism,
Yeah. Yeah.
empathy, scientists, scientific method, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, here's the things that maybe we should put those up in the schools and in the courts and
Yeah.
whatever. So I try to take, again, a positive alternative. Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, if you want me to do this, I don't want to do this, but how about this?
Yeah.
But tell me
There's
where
our compromise. Yeah.
tell me where you disagree, or maybe we should, let's put them next to one another, okay, and see if this, 3,000-year
Yeah.
old, Bedouin, document stands up against, 2030 or 2020,
Yeah.
cultural focus of where we're taking our society in the future. Maybe that would be a good place to start.
Yet, yet, I think a fundamental, I mean, I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. I align with them 100%. But I think a fundamental issue with that is, as we continue to dumb down the American
Yep.
people, one, they don't have the intellectual capacity or ability to cognitively think sharp, to
Yeah.
question and ask
Yeah.
questions, not
Yeah.
challenge, right?
Well, it's by
And then
design. Yeah.
two, they don't have the drive, right? So even if we got past, hurdle one, which are you smart enough to ask the right questions, right? Then they have no
No passion.
no passion. It's like we're bumping along life, like la di da. Everything's gonna
Yeah.
be great because I'm a privileged white person.
Yeah.
It drives me wild.
Yep. Well, and a big part is we got to muscle our way in where we can even have these conversations because they've controlled the narrative to such an extent. And, it's like the way I look at it, if these establishment Democrats and the candidates I've talked to, they've said some very known politicians have called them with a bunch of flattery, but also to say, we just want you out of this primary because they're afraid
Yeah.
of them. But if those Democrats have enough time, because primaries are healthy, we got multiple candidates canvassing the district, getting people excited about voting. The Democrats, that the establishment, that Blue MAGA wants to put the brakes on that is why we've surrendered control of our country. And if
Right.
these Democrats have the time to call up a good progressive candidate and tell them to stop doing the work, then they have time to come and talk to me on this show, don't they? And they can do it out in the open, right? Why do they have to do it in secret? And I just would like to see that happen. I mean, the candidates that are willing to talk to me are the only ones you should be voting for, right? If they're afraid to talk to me, what's so scary about me? I'm just a dad with kids And all these progressives I've talked to, they're just delightful. They finish my thoughts, you know? They're real human beings. And it's just we just have to shake off this idea that what a candidate should look like is this corporate owned entity that just spews a bunch of bullshit that you know is bullshit at the time. You know, they
Yeah.
let like we don't know, like we know nothing and we'll just submit to their authority.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a lot of work. I mean, I mean, we want that to go away, but we don't really know even how to do it. And so bit by bit, we're getting there. And yeah, it's think tanks like this. I got a couple extra minutes so we can just kind of wind down a second. But as always, I just really appreciate seeing you two.
Well, same here,
Same
Walter.
here.
It's so wonderful
Yeah.
chatting with you.
Thanks for letting me barge in.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. Yeah, I'm tired. I need the extra brain power.
But I think we have to be kind of unabashed progressives, and be armed with it. Okay, we have to be armed. So you have to be able to say, what a progressive is.
Yeah.
What do we stand for? Here's our platform. Here are examples, and there's pictures of all of those hundred some odd representatives, and you look at it, and it's America. Okay,
And you tell the story about how it aligns with values.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then unabashedly, say, and I will. Okay, I'm woke. I've been woke before woke was woke. Okay,
Yes.
I've been woke my entire life. Okay, well, what is that? Be able to explain it to somebody. Okay,
Yeah.
are we supportive of DEI?
Yes.
Absolutely, because it just makes good sense from a society, from a business standpoint, from any
Yes.
point of view. Okay, we have to be unabashedly supportive of those positive things that actually make a difference in
Yeah.
terms of the success of the individuals, the society, culture, and the whole of every element of our being.
Yeah. I want to make one quick point too. We have to recognize we're up against indoctrination, where people have been deprived of being taught how to critically think. And I know I get into the habit too, where you're like, oh, it's a cognitive incapacity of the right. And it is not that at all. And because that's a dangerous way of speaking about it. I do it. I have to check myself. But it's like, it's a dangerous way because it kind of deprives us of the ability to act. Because this is a problem that we can fix
Yes.
because we have kids, like the kids these days, they don't even know how to make choices anymore because they get everything through streams. And I've heard a new trend where kids just sit and stare at a wall because every device has got like selections, like streaming services or services. They only show like the same 5 choices. It's like comedy, same 5 movies, drama, same 5 movies. So they're dimly aware that they are not able to choose. Choice has been taken away, but they don't have like blockbuster movies where they can see every movie that's ever been made. And so that's control, and that control
Yeah.
exists. And yeah,
Yeah.
this indoctrination is our enemy.
And Walter, I think too, like when I mentioned early on in our discussion that, some of the systemic factors that I think, kind
Yes.
of squelch the ability for people to think critically
Yeah,
anymore.
develop.
Absolutely, the always on digital, is one of them. But I think another one of them is, whatever term you want to use, I call, psychological safety. I don't think a lot of people, if you're not in the privileged white group, right, then
Yeah.
people feel threatened, scared to, think.
Conditioning and pressure. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
And that's
Yeah,
what we're up
so
against. And that can be fixed. And that's the other good thing that's important to know because we don't want to, because we tend to get into society just scapegoats and we scapegoat immigrants and we scapegoat, because people have been mistakenly talking about like, oh, the president he's got a mental impairment. And it's like, he made a deliberate choice to be cruel. His cruelty is his choice, and that's what we're up against. We have to fix that. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, one closing thought here too, Walter, is I talked to just the other day, a centrist, okay, who was explaining to me that in 2030 or so, that his son now is a white guy, okay, his son will be part of the minority because the majority of the country will be non-white. Okay,
yeah.
and he was concerned with that. And I said, "What a bunch of bullshit."
Well,
Okay, do
what you
you
should have said.
really think that white privilege is going to go away because the whites are no longer the majority of the country? Do you really believe that? Okay, I don't care.
Yeah.
Look at South Africa. Okay, is white privilege gone from South Africa?
Yeah.
Hardly. Okay, so you start to just call them out on it
Yeah.
because this is what's in their head. They've been
Yes.
pumped in their head,
Yes.
especially the centrists, that their children and grandchildren will be at a disadvantage. Never. Okay.
And I would say that's an admission. He is admitting that minorities are not treated as well, right? And he wouldn't even
Yeah.
recognize that. He wouldn't. It's like, so you're saying that minorities aren't treated well? No. It's like, yes, you are. You're afraid.
Racist. He's a
Yeah.
racist.
Well, that's like when I talk to people, like people will talk about ICE, and they're like, they'll say they approve of the border. I'm like, well, can you show me proof of citizenship? And they're just like, well, here's my driver's license. That doesn't count. Your social security card doesn't count. And I'm like, don't you? Nobody's going to ask you because you're white, And it's like, it's
right.
racism. And it's like, they just prove it. They prove themselves and they do it again and again and again. So
Right.
Yeah.
those are good points though. I'm just kind of looking quick. Oh, all right. I should probably get going. I'm talking to Ben in a little bit. He just got back from Peru. So we're going to be talking about movies and stuff again. Ben Ulancy, he got
Oh
to take.
yeah. I love him. I mean,
I hope he came back renewed
I
and
got
happy.
back on his show. The last
Oh,
time we talked movies, it's kind of crazy.
you guys will both have to come on. Like just the transition. Cause I'm old enough to remember too, like the network television premiere of a film and how that
Yeah.
rippled through our community and that kind of stuff's gone. Going to the drive-in. I did an article about going to the drive-in not too long ago. You could take the kids and they'd play before we started. But let me have you guys just real quick say your Substacks again. So anybody here who wants to sign up and listen to your brilliant ideas, they can do so.
Sure. So Robert Dana, Danna. Okay, that's pretty simple. I don't go by any other name, and so you can find me, or if you put Robert Dana, My Curious Life, you can find me all over Google and all of the other. Because I not only I do Substack, but I do tons of radio show and podcast guest appearances and the like. So you can find me, and then.
And then on Substack, I'm Lacey Lowe, Loew. Embarrassed to say I only have less than a handful of followers, but on LinkedIn, I've got about 8,500.
Yeah.
So I've spent way too much of my life on that corporate side. So
Yeah.
here I go. I'm off and running.
Well, just start importing all the old stuff into Substack and people will start finding you and they'll do it
Right.
through things like this. I appreciate you guys. The brain power is what gives me hope every time. And I keep saying it's like the privilege of meeting people like you has made all the hardship of these last 2 years. It has made it worthwhile, amazingly. And there's a silver lining. I guess we got to take those silver linings, right?
We got to take them. You bet.
All right. Thanks. We'll talk to you again soon. And thanks to everybody in the chat. Love to all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.